Take one player. You're telling me you wouldn't take one player out of those I've just named to have João Pedro in that Brazil squad? Not one.
Based off this season. You can't say based off this season because that's
He hasn't been called up for 3 years.
That's not how things work, based off this season.
I don't get how you can argue that Neymar should be called up ahead of João Pedro. And I think it's a huge mistake.
I just feel like Neymar's still got that in his boots. And I'm not surprised.
Ronaldinho, gol de Brasil. Brasil le gana a la Argentina por 3-0.
E aí, pessoal, convocação do Brasil ontem, né? Geral curiosa, principalmente para saber se o Neymar estaria ou não na Copa. Foi definitivamente um evento, viu? E a principal ausência, provavelmente, foi o João Pedro, atacante do Chelsea, que marcou 15 gols esse ano na Premier League, né? E foi eleito pelos torcedores do time inglês como o jogador da temporada. E aqui nesse vídeo, a gente vai acompanhar, né, como alguns ingleses ficaram completamente em choque, inconformados como Ancelotti optou pelo Neymar ao invés do atacante do time inglês. Vamos conferir aqui e não esquece, né, de deixar aquele like para dar uma força pra gente.
Huge news, and that is a 34-year-old Neymar has been included in Carlo Ancelotti's Brazil squad for the World Cup. By the way, his first call-up since 2023. This is a huge shock because it comes as João Pedro misses out. Am I being dramatic, or is this one of the stupidest decisions? I don't know. I'm looking, right. So obviously we know Neymar's had his injury issues. He hasn't played for Brazil for 3 years. He is their top goal scorer. And listen, it's Neymar. I understand it. I go through these Brazil attackers, right? Endrick, you're having João Pedro. Igor Thiago's had an unbelievable season, I think, in terms of an all-round player. Igor Thiago, by the way, deserves to get in that Brazil squad. He's had a brilliant season for Brentford. However, as an all-round player, I'm picking João Pedro. Luis Enrique, Zenit winger, I'm picking João Pedro. Gabriel Martinelli, I'm picking João Pedro. Neymar's played 600 minutes this season. First call-up for 3 years. After the season João Pedro's had, I'm picking João Pedro. Rafinha's had a brilliant season for Barcelona. Obviously, he's going to get in. But realistically, you're picking one player to take out to put João Pedro in. Rayan also had a brilliant season, but you're having João Pedro. Cunha had a good season for Man United. You're picking João Pedro based off of this season. And Vinny Jr. is always going to get in because he's Vinny Jr. Scored 20 goals this season, 15 in the Premier League, and he's absolutely carried that Chelsea attack. When you look at that Chelsea attack this season, he's carried it on his shoulders, and he has given defenders an absolute nightmare of a time. His whole all-round players are unbelievable, and I think it's a huge mistake. Listen, Carlo Ancelotti knows far better than me, right? There's a reason why I'm sitting in this chair, and he is the Brazil manager. However, from the outside looking in, I just cannot, for the life of me, understand that decision. Just rambling on about nothing. Do you think João Pedro should be in that Brazil squad? And out of the attackers there, who would you take out to put João Pedro in? For me, it's easy. You take out any of them. You could take out any of them and put in João Pedro based off of how brilliant he's been. We're going to play a little game of João Pedro or, and we're going to go through the Brazil attackers.
I just say João Pedro's never scored a goal for Brazil. Why are you shocked?
I'm shocked because of the other players that have been called up, Jeff.
Well, like Vinicius Jr.
Like Endrick.
Like Thiago.
Like Endrick.
No,
Okay, well, let's play the game anyway, shall we? Okay, so the first player is Igor Thiago. Absolutely brilliant season for Brentford. 22 goals in the Premier League. Would you be picking him or João Pedro, Dino? It's got to be a little...
Pedro.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeff?
Well, I'm obviously going to go for Thiago because he's been sensational.
Yep, no, that's fine. Mateus Cunha. Obviously, Manchester United haven't been in any competitions apart from the Premier League. He scored 10 goals. Who are you taking, João Pedro or Mateus Cunha?
Look, I just want to preface this by saying I really like João Pedro. He's been brilliant for Chelsea. But Mateus Cunha, I would take every day of the week.
I would as well.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay, Neymar. First call-up since 2023. He's played 600 minutes of league football this season, and he's missed 112 days through injury. He has been called up to the Brazil squad.
But he's a legend. He's going because he's a legend.
I'm just asking, based off of this season, Jeff, who would you take? Him
It's
or
not based off this season. You can't say based off this season because that's
He hasn't been called up for 3
That's
years.
not how things work, based off this season.
I don't get how you can argue that Neymar should be called up ahead of João Pedro.
I'm not arguing that he should be. I'm just saying it's not based off this season in the same way that when England squads are named, Jordan Henderson's been in. That's not based off this season.
Okay, Endrick.
I've got no idea.
Okay, well, he's been on loan at Lyon because it didn't work out at Real Madrid. Scored, I think, 8 goals. 5 of them came in Ligue 1.
I think you're seeing this very much through blue and white
Not, Jeff.
eyes.
I don't understand.
You really are.
I don't understand. I think João Pedro has had an absolutely brilliant first season for Chelsea.
He's had a great season, but it's not all about Chelsea and it's not all about the Premier League. And by the way, the bloke who's picking this is Carlo blooming Ancelotti.
No, listen, I know.
One of the greatest managers in the history of football. And I'm happy to stick with his view, Livia. I'm sorry, with all due respect, rather than yours.
I don't... listen, there's a reason why Carlo Ancelotti is the Brazil manager. But when you look at the players... So Luis Enrique's also been called up. A Zenit winger, he scored 1 goal. Nice. So what are we basing this off? His last season, the season before that? Because João Pedro has...
I don't know. I don't see Zenit.
Okay, Gabriel Martinelli. João Pedro's had a far better season than Gabriel
They're different players. They're different players.
But they're attacking players that you only need to take one player.
Martinelli's a wide player and João Pedro is not.
So you've got to take one player. You're telling me you wouldn't take one player out of those I've just named to have João Pedro in that Brazil squad? Not one.
Do you know when you're
one
managing,
single player.
Or when you're managing, you're trying to piece together a jigsaw. It might be someone's character. You take, look at Trent. Why is Trent not in the England squad? So it's also the manager's ingredients he puts in.
We have not seen him play for Brazil, okay? We've not seen him play for Brazil. All I'm saying, we don't know what his mentality is like. We don't know what his performance has been. He's played 8 times for them. He has not scored a goal for them. And that is going to inevitably go against him.
Has Igor Thiago played for Brazil?
Yeah.
And has he scored?
I don't know.
I don't think he has. So that argument...
But on your basis, you came in and said, but João Pedro scored this many goals in the Premier League. Igor Thiago has scored more.
And I'm not saying Igor Thiago should be the player that comes out for him, because I think Igor Thiago deserves a call-up to the Brazil squad based off of the season he's had. I also believe that when you look at those players in that Brazil squad, I personally believe if you cannot take one player out to put in João Pedro, I think that's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous.
You go and tell Carlo Ancelotti, one of the greatest managers in history.
Must be current form, Current form, Chelsea. Because have they won 1 in 7?
Yeah, but in fairness, Pedro's been he's been their best player this season, hasn't he?
Well, he is a good player.
As we've read there, are world class. None of them are.
Yeah.
Neymar's not anymore.
No, and I'll tell you what, when you look at Brazil, and you think, even with Ancelotti in charge, you think, crikey, how are they going to do that? Because, they've got an ageing midfield as well, and a lack of pace in that. Their forward players, the Vinicius Juniors of this world, are definitely where their strength lies, because elsewhere, they look incredibly vulnerable.
Well, Rodrigo and Esteval obviously are missing as well, and they're probably 2 starting wingers. I know Ancelotti likes to play sort of a weird sort of 4 across the middle. He likes to play with more than 2 wingers, but those 2 obviously are out injured, so... But I look at those. Obviously, Rafinha's had a brilliant season for Barcelona. Rayan's had a really impressive first season for Bournemouth in the Premier League as a teenager. So, yeah, I'm not... to be honest, I actually think it's better news for the teams that are playing against Brazil.
I just think you're trying to compare, not like that João Pedro is a different player, for instance, to Rayan. He's not a wide player.
Neymar and Endrick are the 2 I'm looking at, really. But if you want to say Neymar deserves to be called up because he's
I'm not saying that.
Superstar, I don't know if he's a superstar.
He's a legend. I don't know what Ancelotti's reasons are, but he is I'm just saying 2 facts. One is Neymar, like it or not, is a legend, and like it or not, João Pedro's never scored a goal for Brazil. No, where the people in Brazil view Neymar as being such a legend that it's essential for Ancelotti to keep them on side by having him in the squad.
I mean, maybe, yeah. You would think that, the way that Brazil fans do think of Neymar. He's their highest ever goal scorer. He's like a god in their eyes.
Exactly.
But I'm still standing on my point, Jeff, that João Pedro deserves to be in the Brazil squad for the World.
Unbelievable. Huge news tonight. Did anyone see it coming?
Neymar, yes. About a week ago, the well-sourced Brazilian journos were saying, no, he's not in the 26. Come like Thursday, they were saying, you know what? He is in the 26. Now, if he's in the 26, that means that someone has to drop out. Ancelotti will not play Neymar wide. So this has nothing to do with the injury to Esteval, who's been replaced in the squad really by Rayan of Bournemouth. So he sees him as an attacker through the middle. Now, he's got Mateus Cunha as his first choice, it looks like, in that position. A kind of hybrid 9 and 10. Endrick got in. And then when he's going through the strikers alphabetically, when he didn't read João Pedro, we knew that Neymar was in, because it really did come down to a straight fight between them. Now, in the press conference, Ancelotti looked really uncomfortable when he was pressed on that. One journo said, well, how do you feel about bringing in a player who's played 15 so-so games for one who scored 15 goals in the Premier League. And Ancelotti looked uncomfortable. And he said, I'm sorry about it. João Pedro deserved to go in. But if Neymar's going in, someone had to come out, and it ended up being the Chelsea striker.
What has he done, Neymar, this season? We touch every time we seem to speak to you, his name comes up. And overall, your opinion, does he deserve to be in there, or is it what he has done in the past?
It's what he's done in the past, and he doesn't look remotely like the same player. He's been struggling, really. There's the occasion. He obviously strikes the ball extremely well. There's the occasional good pass. He doesn't look to me to have anything like the same balance. I've always compared him, and this is sacrilege to some, to George Best, in that those ankles are so flexible. He can move at 45 degrees. If he tries that now, he falls over, and not because he's diving, but just because his body doesn't support it, and he's looking frustrated. But Ancelotti made it very clear, and Ancelotti, he does have an absolute reverence for talent. He loves talent, and I'm told by people who know him very, very well that he thinks as a player, and he thinks, I was a midfielder, I was a steady Eddie. I wasn't the one who was getting us the win bonuses. He's got a reverence for those who do.
Yeah.
And really, all that Neymar has been doing is managing to play most, although not all, of Santos' games. He actually jibbed out of the two hardest ones. But he's playing. Now, Ancelotti made it clear that he hasn't been called up based on what he's been doing for Santos. He's based on what he might be able to do.
Right.
And Ancelotti said, look, he's got another nearly a month to improve his physical condition by the time the World Cup starts. And on the whole thing, the whole event was a circus. Giant circus. There's a show, and there's songs, and there's theatre, and lots of influencers, and hundreds of people outside, most of them shouting for Neymar. Essentially what Ancelotti is saying is, I know that this is a circus, but I can tame all of this. He's given this might be the first example that Neymar's really had of tough love, because he's saying, right, he's just one of 26. That's all he is. And Ancelotti made it pretty clear that he's not in his original thoughts for the starting lineup for the first World Cup game against Morocco. But, he said, get out there on the training field. And the training field, what happens there will speak. So Neymar will play if he deserves to play. But he did say it's very, very unfortunate on João Pedro.
Yeah, the thing is, though, Tim, I look at it and I go, over the course of, a tournament, right, some games can be so fine margins. There'll be games where you need not necessarily someone to dictate the tempo of the game, to run the game, to be the best. You need a bit of magic, right? And you do need a bit of magic. And I just feel like Neymar's still got that in his boots. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that this has happened, because when you've got a player like him who can produce something out of the ordinary in a game which is, a damp affair, no one's really doing anything, and there will be games like that in the World Cup because everyone sits in. International football's a lot slower. I just think he can he can score a free kick from 30 yards, win 1-0.
Yeah. And he can take fabulous corners as well. And I think corners might be important in this World Cup. So set pieces, yes. But apart from that, we're not seeing a lot of magic from him in his matches so far. And it's still an unanswered question and he suffered that serious knee injury in October of 23.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago. It's nearly 3 years. We haven't seen it since then. Now, the reason that he's playing in Brazil, he came back to Santos at the start of last year, is that his club in Saudi Arabia wouldn't register him because they didn't think he was fit enough. And we all had a go at him at the time, but they've been proved quite right. He still hasn't looked anywhere near 100%. Now, two options. Number one, that will come back now that he's least able to string some games together. Number two, it's gone forever. We're going to find out one way or the other, I think, over the next few weeks.